From a small town in Clay County, Tennessee, all the way opening up for Cheap Trick, playing drums for the legendary Kevin Dubrow of Quiet Riot. Next on my interview with a good friend of mine for 30 years, I guess, Reggie Hix, right after this. Okay, everybody, and my name is Jones, and welcome to Hanging with Drummer Boy Jones. I've been looking forward to this interview for some time. Reggie Hix is with me today. Reggie is a good friend of mine. We've known each other for 30 years anyways, probably. But Reggie was a influence of mine. When I started playing, Reggie had been playing for some time, and they had the band when I started playing that we all wanted to be like. So I'm looking forward to this. This is going to be fun. So thanks for coming on, Reg.
Great. I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. So just for everybody, just if you want to tell a little bit about yourself, we'll go into all the details, but if you want to tell a little bit about yourself from anybody that don't know Reggie Hix.
Clay County native.
Clay, yep.
Still live in Clay County. I like the quiet.
Out in the sticks.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. I'm just a peaceful person. I go to work, go home. I don't get out a whole lot. Star Wars fan.
Big Star Wars, yep.
Now, huge Star Wars fan. Since I was 8. Which has been a day or two ago. I'm a pretty boring person.
Yeah, you're not really. You're really not. I'm looking forward to a lot of these stories today because I'm gonna pick your brain a little bit. Okay, is that cool? So, So, what got you into drums? What got you into music?
Of course, being in 4th grade, a mutual friend of ours, Brad Copus, he had already discovered Kiss, and was listening to them, and turned me on to it. Of course, at the time we had music in our house, but Mom's was bebop, bubblegum, Jerry Lee Lewis and stuff like that,
right.
And of course, my grandparents it was the old country, Hank Williams, and those lines.
Right.
And I knew music. Mom could play piano some. She would play a little along, and I would go around and pick on keys and stuff.
Right.
But I heard rock and roll all night, and like I said, I was in the 4th grade, so this would have been. Let's see, 78, I guess it was.
So pretty much the Destroyer era, I guess, or maybe even before the Destroyer.
Well, of course, Rock and Roll All Night was on Dress to Kill, I believe.
Okay.
So it would have been 4 or 5 years old already at that time.
Okay.
So yeah, late bloomer. And, that always stuck in my head, because it started out with drums and stuff, and I just loved the way it sounded, and everything. And go 2 years on up ahead and hit 6th grade. And my grandmother, my mom's mom, had a nephew who lived out west, and he had come back home this way to live, him and his wife. And they played country western music.
Okay.
And he got here, and he was going to hang it up, not play so much. And he had an old guitar and a drum kit, an old drum kit. It was a mix and match. It come out of different bars, different bar fights. And so, he collected the drum here. It was Slingerland and a little Ludwig and such. It was an old red sparkle kit.
Okay.
Straight up 1960s.
There you go.
and he wanted to, get rid of them. So Mom and my grandmother decided, hey, if you will stick with it and learn how to play, pick one.
Yeah.
And so I picked drums. And so that's where the drum kit come in. And then school started back 6th grade year, and we was old enough to get into band at school.
Right.
If we so chose. And, we took our little music test, and I done well enough on it. And the music teacher from Salina would come to Hermitage Springs once or twice a week. And and there was, I don't know, 7 or 8 of us probably in the band. Trumpets, saxophone, clarinets mostly, and then me on a snare drum. And so that's where I was able to learn some, learn some rudiments, learn how the music worked, how to read a little. And then so often we'd practice, and we'd go and she'd combine us with the band at Salina, and we'd do a concert up there at the Salina High School. And so I stayed with that for 3 years. Band didn't last long at Hermitage Springs. The last year I was in, there was only 2 of us in.
Really?
It was me and a trumpet player.
So for a lot of you guys that don't know, Hermitage Springs is a very small community, right?
Mm-hmm. If you blink, you miss it.
Right. So there was not a lot of students because when you said band, the first thing I thought of was Hermitage Springs was big enough to have a band?
Yeah. Well, see, then, we were a K-12.
Okay.
But
exactly, yeah.
But now it's only a K-8.
Okay. Yeah, that's right, because everybody's gone to Salina.
Yeah, they built a new high school at Salina.
Okay, yeah.
And so a bigger school, and, they bust the kids up there. Of course, there was only, I graduated in 87, and I think there was only 36 of us.
36.
In our graduating class.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't mean to, I didn't mean that as, well, you was Hermitage Springs, there was nobody there. There was no, I just mean it was small community, very small community.
Yeah.
So, okay. Well, that's interesting because already I did not know that you had studied in the band and learn how to read music and like you said, learning your rudiments and that kind of stuff. Because when I first started, I think me and Joyce talked about it last week. I didn't know what a rudiment was.
Yeah.
If it wasn't just a single stroke roll, Chris didn't know how to do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's the same thing. You get, you're young and think you know everything and you don't know nothing.
Yep.
And, and you get bored and you're not learning as fast as you want to. And, you just think that you need to go on. So, like I said, eventually there was just 2 left in the band. And I was wanting to do more, with a whole kit and everything.
Right.
So I just quit. And, I was okay for a time. I done okay. But years later, you figure out, today's drummers, and, it has been for a while, they're educated.
Yeah, right.
They know their rudiments.
Yeah.
And that's how you get jobs.
Absolutely, because you play, I'm speaking for myself, but I couldn't play country music. I didn't know the shuffle. You know, as a 4/4, that's all I cared about. Mm-hmm. So yeah, you're exactly right. I mean,
but I mean, our school, later on, started putting on musicals,
right,
to where they would have a live band, and the students would get up and sing songs.
Okay.
And then it got to where my freshman year, I got conned into playing the whole musical.
Okay.
The superintendent, who was a great piano player, he was in charge of getting the bands and coming and getting the kids together and rehearsing with them and such.
Right.
He took that upon himself. Salina had their own musical also. Well, we were going to do a song, me and Brad and a buddy of ours, Avery Johnson.
Okay.
And, well, another boy named Richard Franklin. And we were going to do some songs. So I took my drum kit down to school. And the superintendent said, why don't you play along with us, just to help move things along? And I thought, well, sure, I'll help.
Yeah.
And so, do that 2 or 3 weeks. And he must have liked what I was playing. And he was talking about hiring the band and getting them together. And I said, who the drummer? I said, have you hired a drummer? He says, yeah, we already got a drummer. And he just looked at me. And I went, oh, okay. So I got my share, not only, playing rock, but country and 50s, doo-wop.
Just everything.
Yeah, from one end to the other spectrum. And so I was kind of well-rounded then at the time.
Good.
To be playing since 1980.
Yeah.
And my freshman year, it would have been 84, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
84.
84. And then 85, they let us have, I told him I didn't want to play the whole thing. And they let us set up as a band.
Okay.
And we got to do 3 songs.
It's still rolling. So.
Okay. And of course, now our freshman year and senior year, we went ahead and we decided we would play the whole thing.
Okay.
So we had the local teachers chipped in and took over handling it, to keep things smooth and rolling, while me, Brad, and Avery, and a boy named Scotty Hawkins.
Remember Scotty?
Yeah.
I do remember Scotty.
Of course, he's passed away now.
Right.
But the first year, and the teacher that done it our junior year, that was over it, she could play piano. So if anything needed piano, she would play it. And then we done all the music, be whatever it was.
Yeah.
And then our senior year, we had somebody else took over of running it. And one of our bus drivers, Terry Englert, was a good piano player. And so we pulled him into our little bunch.
Okay.
And we would rehearse. But the thing with Terry could only read music to where we all played by ear.
Right.
And so what we would do is I went in and I learned the piano parts because piano was actually my first instrument.
Right.
And I would learn the piano parts and write everything down on cheat sheets. And then I would teach them to him.
Wow.
And then he would get that down, and it all worked out well. Now, we did buy some music that, we could find.
Right, right.
But there was no internet or anything back then.
Right.
So, it all worked out well,
Yeah.
So there was a lot of being in that element, learning different types of music, I think, is kind of a good thing.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Because you learn how to not play just, all the time. You learn how to, play soft and easy.
Yeah.
And slow, which is a whole lot harder than playing fast.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
That's cool.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. So safe to say, I guess, the musicals is sort of what got you started in playing as in a rock band or a band.
Yeah, we did form a band about 84, and we played. There was a skating rink in Red Bowling Springs,
Right.
and we played over there on Saturday nights. I don't know if we played weekends or not. I don't know if it was a Friday and Saturday night or just Saturday night, but people would come, and dance, and they had bands. They booked bands from quite a few places.
Yeah.
I know bands come from Bowling Green and Cookeville,
Right.
and stuff to play in there.
Well, I think that is the only time that I seen Rampage.
Mm-hmm.
Was hearing about you guys. Somebody actually had some pictures of you guys when we was in school. And they was like, well, they're playing at Red Bull, so you know. And I went over there.
Yeah.
There was a couple of us went over there, and I was like, yeah, you know, y'all looked the part. Y'all had the hair, you had the dress, you know,
Yeah.
you had everything, and that's when I was like, and I can't remember what year that would be.
Well,
87, 88 maybe?
Yeah, I can't remember how long the skating rink stayed open.
That's me. I cannot.
Of course, you know, the Red Bull would have street dances too. They would block downtown Red Bull off, you know, and set somebody up at the end of the street. You know, they're in the old part of town. And we would have some flatbed trailers set up, and, you know, the band would set up there. And they would have a fireworks show and everything. It was a big thing for
Right.
a long time.
Yeah, yeah.
And
That's one thing they never did do over here. You know, there was never, well, at least to my knowledge. Maybe I just didn't pay attention. Maybe they did, but I don't know. But yeah, so that, safe to say too that it was always you and Brad?
yeah, for a long time, we, thick and thin, you know, not only musically, we also got to build and paint the stage. You know, the students was all in on it.
Yeah.
You know, if we weren't learning music or practicing, we were putting the stage together.
Yeah.
You know, and those were really, really, really fun times. And that would be something to go back and relive, because the camaraderie, you know, our class, all the students together, working at one goal.
One thing.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
And, you know, there was no harsh words.
Yeah.
There was no bickering. There was no high status, low status.
Yeah.
Everybody was in it together.
It was all from there. Everybody was the same place. There's 30 something of you. Like, I think when I graduated, I think my graduating class was like 112 or
Yeah.
something. You know, it was a little bit bigger. Still not a huge town, but you had your cliques.
Yeah.
You know, you had your football, your baseball, your softball. You had your band guys. You had your rock guy. You know, everybody had a clique. And yeah, that's pretty. You don't see that hardly ever, where everybody's doing the same thing.
Yeah.
For one thing. So.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess then, and you said you graduated what in
87.
87. Okay, so I guess at that time Rampage had done started.
Yeah, we had done started. We played our own senior prom.
Okay, y'all played the prom.
Yeah, we
Wow.
played our own prom. I think there'll be some pictures, I
Okay,
think.
yeah.
And a few. And yeah, we set up and done that. So I took my drums to my prom. I did.
That's fantastic.
Well, they were pearl. So
There you go.
there you go.
There you go.
And yeah, we done that. You know, we had played a few places. Of course, Mom and Dad went with us to help carry equipment and stuff, and also chaperones, because we was underage, and by then we had started playing. Some of the bars would let us in to play,
Right.
but we had to be supervised.
Gotcha.
So that way, they knew that nobody was sneaking and drinking underage, and
Yeah.
that they wouldn't get busted for it.
Right. So, okay, so who was there was 4 of you guys, right?
Well, in the beginning, there was actually 5 of us.
Okay, tell us about that, because I can't not, and I'm sorry, but I can't remember. I've always knew you and Brad.
Yeah.
I mean, I've always knew you guys, and seems like I remember, was Jerry Sloan part of it?
No,
Or
he was a different band.
Okay, yeah, because he's a drummer too, right?
Yeah, was.
Yeah. Okay, so go ahead.
There was 5 of us. Richard Franklin was one. He was our singer. Of course, myself, Brad, a guy named Michael Davis. Brad and Michael played guitar. Scotty Hawkins played bass.
Okay.
And, you know, we just 5-piece, you know. There's the whole spectrum of thing. You know, we would turn around, we'd play Leonard Skinner and ZZ Top, but then turn around and play Judas Priest.
Right.
But, you know, I mean, you have to keep the crowd happy.
Yeah.
And time goes on and such, and our lead singer joined the Air Force.
Okay.
So we went down to 4-piece. And stayed that way for a while. Brad took over vocal duties.
Right.
And by that time, I had started learning how to sing harmony,
Right.
and so on. And I took some lead vocals every now and again. And the time moves on. Things happen, and we ended up with another guy, Chad Taylor, on bass.
That is when I think I seen you guys. Okay. I'm pretty sure, because Chad had a real long straight hair. Mm-hmm. I'm pretty sure he was playing when I seen you guys.
Okay.
Okay.
And he had been in another band or two, and then we got him to join us. And there was a place in Livingston called the Brandon Iron, which there's a picture of it too.
That is right. That is right. Yes.
And it was a monster place. I mean, huge. The stage was big, and he used to have a lot of acts. He'd been around for a while. Johnny Van Zant, the youngest brother, who took over after Ronnie was killed.
Right.
For Leonard Skinner. Johnny had performed in there.
Okay.
Years ago.
I didn't know that. Okay.
And because there's pictures and flyers up, of different bands that come through. I don't know if you remember, before Every Mother's Nightmare, there was a band called Rocks.
I do remember
out of
Rocks.
Nashville.
Yeah.
ROXX.
XXX. Yep.
And they come in and played up there one night.
Okay.
And that's when I learned stage decoration. It wasn't just the instruments. They brought in things, runners, and different things to hang lights from, materials and curtains, to make the stage look like $1 million.
Right.
And the first time that I'd went to the Brandon Iron, I saw them, and I was like, wow, this place is amazing. And then we got up there to play our first gig, and I went, what happened?
Where's all this stuff?
Where'd all the stuff go? They took it with them because it was theirs.
Right.
And so we learned, we got us some material and made us some curtains to hang up ourselves.
Yeah.
And to do a clean back line, we would put the amplifiers behind the curtains.
Right.
And so it was just, just natural and clean. But we got to thinking, we don't really like that look. We want our amps to be seen too.
Yeah.
And so we started bringing the amps out front and such. And then I had got rid of my black kit.
Okay.
And got my chrome kit.
Right.
That I loved it to death.
Yeah.
It was pretty.
Yeah.
Back then, when Pearl was making them, they actually used actual metal on the finish.
The wraps was metal, yeah.
Yeah, and then after a while, I found out that it got too dangerous because people were getting cut and stuff and doing it, and they finally devised a safer plastic alternative.
Yeah.
And they would put your eyes out and the lights hit them.
Yeah, make them any color.
Yeah.
And I'm going to, so going with the chrome, which my first double bass kit was a chrome kit. Mm-hmm. It was Tamas.
Yeah.
It's the only one that said they was the cheaper. They was the, I don't remember, was it Rockstar or something like, I can't remember, but they was a cheaper Tamas set. And I played them for several years, but there's chrome, and I wanted chrome.
Yeah.
And there's two reasons I wanted chrome. I had seen your drum set, and in '87, Tommy Lee's chrome drum set on Girls.
And it was a nice drum set.
That was, so I'm going to compare you and Tommy Lee made me want to go get my chrome set.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, okay. That's awesome. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh, you're fine. That's fine. That's great. Of course, we stayed together till about 90, and then things kind of fell apart, and stuff. And I started jamming with some guys from Cookville. And then the next year, a guy named Kenny Qualls, who had a band called Rapture.
I remember the name Kenny Qualls. I do remember that name.
Rapture had been around forever and a day. And they were the hottest band. Everybody went to see Rapture at the Brandon Iron. They were out of Cookville. And he was needing a drummer. And he got my name and number from Michael Davis, our other guitarist, and called me and asked me if I wanted to play. And I said, yeah, I want to play. And so we got together and started rehearsing together in this place in Rickman, Tennessee. Well, something happened, and somehow or the other, we left our equipment in there, and the place caught fire. And the only thing that saved our equipment was the CO2 canisters that run the Coke machine, the fountain drinks, and stuff. They actually exploded and put the fire out, I guess. That's what they said.
Right.
But my actual real chrome kit was singed.
Yeah, I remember you telling me about that.
And and there wasn't a thing you could do about it.
But you salvaged them.
The only thing that saved them was because they were two-headed. All the drums were double-headed.
Yeah.
And they said that's what saved the inside of the head, the integrity. That's what kept everything intact. And so I had to have them recovered. And, they did, in the plastic, wrap put on them, I was like, okay, yeah, they still look okay. Yeah. And then I had bought some mirrored drum heads to put on the bottoms of the drums. That way it was just one big chunk of chrome.
Yeah.
And that way, no matter where light hit it, light was reflecting
off of it.
That was a lot of fun. Even my bass drum heads had mirrored drum heads on them, and it was a lot of fun. Of course, we'd set up on a drum riser or whatnot wherever we were playing, and girls like to come up, and fix their hair.
in the reflection.
And had no idea that I was just actually sitting there looking at them. But yeah, stuff like that was a lot of fun. And we played, we were playing in Oak Ridge, Crossville, McMinnville, Cookville. So we done a lot more traveling. Anywhere Kenny could find a gig, we played.
You was playing, yeah. So, I guess that makes sense, because I think that might have been how we actually started to know each other. Because after Rampage fell apart, or everybody done your own thing, so you went with Rapture. Mm-hmm. Me and Tony Hale was trying to create something. He knew Brad, and I didn't know either one of you guys personally. I knew you, but I didn't know you. So Tony reached out to Brad, and Brad come over and started jamming with us. Mm-hmm. Which then I started hearing the stories of y'all creating your back. I mean, we practically did everything y'all did because of what y'all did.
Yeah.
Well, we done backdrops, so we had to do backdrops, and like I said, started putting our stuff behind the curtains, and then we started moving them out, and then, so I wasn't for sure, but that sounds right. I mean, I know what you're saying's right, but that lines up, because I think that's when I first met Brad. I just graduated. I graduated in 90. Mm-hmm. And I think me and Brad and Tony started playing 90, maybe it's 91 already, but, somewhere in that vicinity. And I think you'd come over with you because, I shouldn't say everybody, but back used to, if you was in a band and you decided to quit and you went to another band or things didn't work out, a lot of times it's like, well, screw you, you're not playing with me no more, so... but you and Brad, I think, was always, it just didn't work out. Y'all was always pretty tight, I believe.
Yeah. Oh, actually, Rapture and, you guys, I was trying to remember what name.
Was we Bad Name then? Was that what we was?
It was before Bad Name.
Was it?
We done a gig up here together at the Armory.
Yeah. I don't remember what we was called. I know we was Bad Name for several years.
When you was Bad Name, I think I played keyboards for you.
Yeah, you absolutely did. I was going to get to that too, because one thing because I remember seeing you guys, and you was, well, of course I'm left-handed, so you was right-handed, and maybe you was playing your keys.
Yeah.
And you was playing with one hand, and then you was singing. And so, how the hell is he doing that? Once you just had so much going on, you probably even had a double bass groove going on too. I don't remember. But
there was some songs, I would sing, and play with this hand over here, and then my left hand would be on the keyboard.
Yeah, it's insane.
That's what makes it interesting. Can I do this?
Yeah.
And so, you work at it,
And just
until you do it.
Yeah, yeah. It's pretty. You know, Joyce, me and her going back to our conversation, we kept talking about practice. Everybody now, you know, when I started, and I'm sure you was the same way. When you wanted to learn something, you know, you had a cassette or an album. And maybe
no
you put
YouTube, no nothing.
you put your headphones on and you just listen and listen, and then you play to it and listen more, and you know, and day in and day out, just over and over and over and over every day. You know?
Well, I mean, from the time I got up in the morning when I was in school, I would get up and I would eat breakfast, and I would play drums until the bus got to the house. And then I would get on the bus and I would go to school. And then I would get home from school, and then I'd play drums a little while. I'd eat supper. Then I'd play drums some more. And then what little homework that I would pretend to do. And then go to bed, and then do it every day, the next day, the next day.
And then probably, I know I do it, while I was at school, I'm thinking of the song, and you know, you're sitting there with your hands, and you're like, you know, this is what
I got called on a lot for tapping on my desk. See, I had one of the big Mead notebooks, you know, the Trapper Keepers.
The Trapper Keeper, yeah.
And I had the thing that had several pencils.
Yeah.
Because I was the guy people come to, hey, I don't have a pencil, can I borrow one?
Yeah.
So I always had at least two pencils, so I could drum on the desk, and then the teacher would go, stop that.
Mr. Hix, you're bothering class, right?
Yes, exactly.
Oh man, so yeah, that's cool. So let's see. So that's going to get us up through the '90s, or mid '90s, or whatever.
Yeah.
But so tell me about. And if you don't want to talk about this, I hope you do, because I think this is incredible. Which I knew you started, or you was in a band. I don't know if you could tell us about, but the Psycho Boyfriend.
Yeah. I was in Rapture from 91 till 94. And we had met, of course, now Andy had already knew the guitarist, Dean Johnson.
Now, was Andy with you?
Andy Bowman played bass with us in Rapture.
All right, I'm putting things together here. I got you.
And he went to school with a boy named Dean Johnson.
Yep. Remember Dean?
Fantastic guitar player.
Absolutely.
And we had met Ty Westerhoff.
Yep.
And for some of you all know, I know you do, Ty was bass player for a band called Julliet.
Absolutely. That's where I was going.
And they had come out of Florida and got hooked in with Kevin Dubrow. And Kevin was kind of producing them and took him under his wing a little bit, you know, to help him out. And, of course, that didn't work out, you know, the grunge thing and all this and that. Yeah. And Ty ended up moving to Knoxville. He moved to Knoxville. He, you know, played in another band, and he'd come to see us in Rapture one night in Oak Ridge. And he got up and sung a couple of songs with us. And then him and Andy got to be buddies. And at that time, Kenny's wife was pregnant. And, I can tell you, there's some funny stories. I'm going to share this one. Okay. Because I can't get over this one. We was going one night to Cookeville, or to Oak Ridge to play. And they had forecasted snow, and the club owner at the AmVets in Oak Ridge said, we never close, so just come ahead.
Yeah.
Well, when we left Cookeville, you know, it was spitting a little rain, you know, and we got up there, and it was raining when we got there, and we set up. Of course, in Oak Ridge, at that place, you played from 10 to 2.
Okay.
Well, sometime during the night, it started snowing, and things got real white by the time we got through it, too. So, and the club owner said, I don't see no problems. We'll still be open tomorrow. So we went to the hotel. It snowed all night. It snowed all night because I sat and I looked out the window and I watched it, and it just kept falling and kept getting deeper. And early the next morning, he called us and he said, we're closed. So here we are. I had a station wagon, mom's station wagon. I used it on the weekends to cart us back and forth. And Kenny's wife was pregnant at that time. So we was having to get back to Cookeville to his wife. So we tried it, slipped and slid all the way to the interstate, and got on the interstate and got somewhere to Crab Orchard before you get to Crossville.
Right.
And a truck had jackknifed.
Oh, no.
Blocked the interstate completely. And a guy come walking up to us. We sitting there watching and looking, and he said, "Just shut your car off and save your fuel." He said, "They ain't going to be able to get a wrecker here till tomorrow."
Oh, no.
And we said, And I had just kept the key to the hotel room in my pocket just in case. So we turned around on the interstate, went back the interstate the wrong way, got on an off ramp, and finally got on the interstate the right way and made it back to Oak Ridge to the hotel room.
Yeah.
And we tried to get some supplies, stuff to eat. Nothing was open. Grocery stores was open, but they sold out of everything.
Right.
So I survived on Lunchables for 2 days. And I finally got home on Monday evening.
Wow.
But yeah, that's one of my favorite stories from the Rapture on the road thing.
Yeah. That's
That
crazy.
It wasn't funny at the time, but it's funny now.
Right.
But anyway, with that we was wanting to venture out more. Me and Andy Bowman were.
Right.
To play more different places. And so we decided we would form our own band. And so with Ty was going to play guitar and sing, and Andy played bass, and then Andy got his friend Dean Johnson to play guitar.
Right.
And so Psycho Boyfriend was formed.
Okay.
And it went on well. We was playing different places and stuff. We done a lot of different stuff. Most kind of older stuff. Ziggy Stardust.
Yeah.
Of course, Bowie. Badfinger.
Yeah.
Buffalo Springfield and stuff like that. We do some collective soul
Yeah.
and such, oddball stuff. But we done a lot of stuff that nobody else was doing.
Yeah.
We done a lot of Zeppelin. Not Stairway to Heaven and rock and roll, but with stuff like When the Levee Breaks and Dire Maker.
Yeah.
Kashmir.
Yeah.
Later on, Dean, after a couple of years, Dean wanted to go on and do original music. So Dean left, and we got Walter Moore. And Walter Moore was also a multi-instrumentalist, and he could play our instruments better than we could.
Yeah. Yeah.
Walter was unbelievable and could sing like a bird. And there's where our keyboards come in, because Walter could play also, and that's hence what started us doing Kashmir.
Gotcha.
And in about 95, Ty got in touch with Kevin Dubrow, and they were fixing to go out on the road. They had released an album, and I can't remember the name of the album, but Ty talked to him, and he agreed to come out with us and do a few shows. And we were our own opening act. Or, we were the opening act, and then Kevin would come on, and he'd be the headliner.
Right.
And we done 6 shows with Kevin. We started in Cookeville, and then went to Bowling Green, and then from Bowling Green to Paducah, and then a long haul from Paducah to Chattanooga, and then I think we went up to Knoxville, and then across to Clarksville.
Okay.
And then Kevin got a plane out of Clarksville, or he got a ride back into Nashville to catch a plane where he was going to meet the band wherever their tour was starting. And so I got to play drums behind Kevin Dubrow for 6 shows.
That's amazing. Because, he had one of the, strongest voices.
Strong is not the word. We weren't playing huge stages, but big enough. And even with me pounding drums and, and the amplifiers going and everything, I could hear Kevin's voice
Yeah.
while he was singing. And he blew a diaphragm in our one of the 57s that we had.
Really?
No, a 58, I'm sorry.
Okay.
An SM58. And because his voice was so powerful. And I'm like, that's insane.
Yeah.
Because, I could hear him over the music. I didn't actually need a monitor to hear him.
That's crazy.
And, it's something when you can play, of course, Come On Feel the Noise or Bang Your Head.
Yeah.
And the actual singer is right there in front of you. And his voice is coming through at you. Yeah, it's...
that's insane,
yeah.
is what it is. That's... it's weird. I just find that amazing. I mean, that's something, we played a show one time. We got to open up for, it was like half a Cinderella. I think it's the Naked Beggars or something, but Eric Brittenhelm and, oh gosh, LeBar might have been in it at the time. I can't remember, but anyway, that was the closest thing I'd got to. I was on stage, or we might have played somewhere that Warrant had played before, and you're like, I'm on the same stage as they was. That's pretty awesome.
Well, see, that's the same thing it was with me. Not only was I playing with, Kevin Dubrow, the lead singer for Quiet Riot, who was responsible, the band, their album, Mental Health, done a lot for a lot of other bands.
Everything.
As far as getting on the charts and such.
Because that was the first #1 heavy metal record of all, the first one, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But the other thing was, I was also on stage with a guy that shared the stage with Randy Rhoads.
Yeah, that's...
And that was another thing. And there was a song. We done the whole Mental Health album.
I was thinking you told me.
In its entirety. And there was a song called Thunderbird.
Yes, love it.
That he wrote for Randy Rhoads. And we done...
that just gives me cold chills just thinking about it. I mean, being in your, staring at Kevin Dubrow's ass and hearing his voice and playing those songs, and that's amazing.
Yeah,
that's
it's wild. We done the Mental Health album. We done Mama, We're All Crazy Now. We done The Wild and the Young, which is off the third,
QR3.
Yeah, whatever.
Right. Which, on a side note, is probably my favorite Quiet Riot song. I love The Wild and the Young.
Yeah, that was a great tune. And then we done a Who song. And I can't remember which one it was.
Yeah.
We done a Who song. But yeah, that was that's something I can look back on and think about. I didn't think to get a picture on that.
Yeah.
But
well, you can send me one. It'll take me, if you've got them.
Yeah, there's actually one on Facebook.
Oh, is there?
Of
okay.
Us with Dubrow at Cookville.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, on your page?
Yeah, it's in my albums.
Okay. All right, I'll get it.
Previous bands.
All right, I'll get it.
It's in there.
That's Lori and myself went to, I think it's in 01 or something, but it was at Starwood, and it was Poison, Warrant, Enough's Enough, and Quiet Riot. And this is when Poison was just coming back out after the grunge thing. And, so I got on, and then first of the internet, I think it's 01. And I told Lori, we can get backstage passes through Ricky Rocket's fan club for $50. You want to do it? And so we did.
Yeah.
So, we come, sort of like Wayne's World.
Oh, yeah.
Coming on through here, turn the corner, bam, we run right into Kevin Dubrow. And I was starstruck. I was just like, Lori, here's Kevin Dubrow. And I just went out and said, hey, Kevin, I said, y'all was amazing, and, all this. And I said, by the way, I said, I think we got a mutual friend. And he said, just looked at me like, huh? And I said, do you remember Reggie Hix and Ty Westerhoff? Oh yeah, absolutely. I said, I'm from close to the same town as Reggie. I said, and he said, really? And I said, yeah. He said, well, you send them my best, you know. And
Yeah.
I said, absolutely. But, you know, I know somebody Kevin Dubrow knows. But yeah, that was, I can't go on about it enough. Anytime I get a chance to tell that story about you, I do.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. Of course, you know, we got to rehearse one day before he come in, and we rehearsed at Mom and Dad's house in Leonard.
Okay, that's what I was thinking, yeah.
And we just set up and we run through the songs one time, and just threw it up to air, and you know, and we went out, and the next day we started the show in Cookeville.
Okay. Man, I wished I would have known at that time. I would have went in a heartbeat. I just didn't know it, I don't guess, you know, but.
Well, there wasn't a whole lot of time to advertise.
Yeah, and plus, I mean, that was the start of the internet, maybe barely.
Yeah.
You know.
I hadn't, but
When was that,
I still
90?
hadn't. I still didn't own a computer at that point in time.
Yeah.
I didn't get a computer until '97.
Okay.
So.
That's about when the internet was, you know, you still have to do that dial up and
Yeah.
all the stuff. So. Awesome. So that's going to take you through like.
That was in '95, and then we ended up with we kind of got us a booking agent and stuff, and things happened, and it was actually Brad's birthday
Okay.
on June 27th of '96. They had booked Cheap Trick to play at the fairgrounds in Crossville,
Okay.
and so we snagged the opening act for that.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah, so I got to open for Cheap Trick, and Robin Zander is one of my all-time favorite
Absolutely.
vocalists,
Absolutely.
male vocalist, and so I actually got to meet him, and he was just a regular guy.
Really.
Yes, just a regular guy. Ty introduced me to him,
Yeah.
and he said, "This is Reggie Hix. He's a big fan." And then I said, "Huge fan." And he just smiled and laughed, and he stuck his hand out, shook my hand. He says, "I'm glad to meet you." And just standing around talking like, just a bunch of guys like me and you were talking
Yeah.
now. And that helped put my faith in some of them, because you hear, some are not approachable,
Yeah.
and stuff, and so
Yeah.
on. And of course, Cheap Trick's still going at it
Still to this
like
day.
they are.
Yeah.
And I'm happy, because Cheap Trick was one of my favorite bands.
Absolutely.
I loved a lot of their stuff. Not just I Want You to Want Me, but stuff like Dream Police, especially.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's just great stuff. And Robin's voice is just amazing.
Yeah.
Because, I pick singers, like Steve Perry, Brad Delp, Lou Graham
Yeah.
from Foreigner, and Robin Zander.
Yeah.
Just amazing vocalist.
Yeah.
And
Well, saying that, I'm assuming Chris is probably one of your main influences. But
Peter's what got me started.
Yeah.
Yes. And then later on, I got to, listening to more, listening to music, finding other drummers and stuff. And of course, Bon,
Yeah.
the machine that he is, or was, just amazing. I still get chills every time I hear When the Levee Breaks.
Yeah.
When it kicks in, and I'm just like, wow.
Yeah.
And of course, Neil from
Yeah.
Rush, him and Bonham and Neil there are, I'd say the top two,
Yeah. Yeah.
regardless.
I remember the first time I heard Zeppelin, which was a little later. I mean, of course, you heard the radio hits, you
Yeah.
know, but never got into Zeppelin really until I got a little older, But the title or the opening song of the Zeppelin 1. Why am I brain dead for? But he's pulling triplets off with a single bass drum
Yeah,
pedal,
yeah.
and you're sitting there going, huh,
Yeah, well, it's like good times, bad times.
Yeah.
You know, and stuff like, you know, I mean, it's just amazing what he did and what he could do.
And the power. I think that was one of the reasons I like Tommy so much, which he's probably my Peter Criss, you know,
Yeah.
for when I've done it, was just the power behind it, but what do you say? The smoothness, it just looks like they're just, you know, they're not trying.
Yeah.
Everything's just fluent. I guess fluent.
Yeah.
But the power, when they hit it, you know they hit it. And when you even listening to, I know I am with that with the Crew, when you'd listen to the Crew, or when Randy took over for Tommy, you know, and you're listening to it, you're like, it's good. It ain't Tommy.
Yeah.
You know, in the same way as, you know, which Zeppelin never had another drummer, but.
No, because they. Yeah.
Right.
But there was so many that, you know, even back then, not just Neil and John Bonham, but I go with, you know, I can switch over to jazz and do Buddy Rich.
Right.
Was insane, crazy,
Yeah.
what he could do. And then you've got Ginger Baker
Yeah.
from Cream. And I went blank on Hendrix drummer. But he was awesome.
Yeah.
And then Ian Pace from Purple.
Yeah.
He don't get enough. People should. He's overlooked. You know.
Yeah.
He's definitely underrated.
Yeah.
And then.
I always really liked Aldridge.
Yeah, well, I mean, he was early on too.
Yeah.
Because with Black Oak, Arkansas.
Yeah.
And then we got in with Ozzy.
Yeah.
They brought him to the front, you know, limelight.
Yeah. Which I didn't, you know, this shows my ignorance, but, you know, I didn't know of him till he was in Whitesnake.
Yeah.
And then I went back, you know, Brad opened up a whole new world for me for music, you know, because I knew the popular hair bands. If it wasn't Motley, Poison, Warrant, Bon Jovi, I didn't like it and I didn't want to hear about it until Brad.
Yeah.
And then, you know, Queen and Priest and, you know, all this stuff, you know, he introduced me. I was like, God, I was an idiot. What was I thinking? Which was okay, because when all that stuff sort of went away in the 90s, I was listening to rare cuts of, you know, Skinnerd and things that I'd never heard before, and it's all new to me.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, I knew Skinnerd, but not all the, you know, and I'm an album person. I don't like to just hear the hits. I like the experience.
There's more to Skinner than Give Me 3 Steps, Tuesday's Gone, and Freebird.
Absolutely. Unreal.
Yeah.
And of course, I know Artist was not the first, but the original
Drummer. Yeah, I can't think of his name.
Yeah.
But he was tired. Of course, back then, they wore bands out. I mean, they just run them down. There was no rest. For instance, with Kiss, I mean, I know they're not the only band that done it, but when they went into the studio, they would record enough material for 2 albums.
Yeah.
They would release an album, go out on tour, and then in 6 months they would release the other album and still be touring.
And just keep it going.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ace Frehley even said, you know, one time they decided, you know, it's time for a break. We need to take a break. And then they got back to the States, and he says, I don't have anywhere to live. I guess I need to buy a house.
Yeah.
He said, I don't have a car. I guess I need to buy a car first.
Yeah.
He said, now I had 6 figures in my bank account. And I was homeless.
Yeah. That's crazy.
So, there you go.
Yeah, because their first 4 records come out in 3 years or something like that, or
it was pretty close.
Yeah.
And a lot of bands, you know, a lot of them, you know, would get messed over. You know, the management stuff. Ted Nugent I think he ended up with some kind of horse farm or something somewhere.
Yeah.
And he didn't even know he had it.
Really.
Badfinger, one of my favorite bands, the only other band on Apple Records, the Beatles.
Right.
Their management really screwed them over bad. They didn't have any money. I mean, they were all broke.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they were a hot band at the time.
Yeah, yeah.
They had a lot of hits.
Yeah.
And, of course, it drove the lead singer to suicide.
Right. Right.
And,
Yeah,
which is always sad, you
Oh,
know,
yeah.
that you can't find no other way out.
Yeah. Yeah. That's tough. And like, that's the first thing you think of, like when you mentioned Delp a while ago, you know, it's just like, I was watching a thing on him the other day that was really, I mean, you know, you're sitting there listening to the things he done, and nobody can sing like that.
No.
You know, nobody's ever going to replace that. And then they just, you know, don't see another way out. And
Yeah,
yeah,
just-
it's sad. It
yeah.
is sad. All right, man. So, so we got up through
96?
96. And going back, okay, so how did Psycho Boyfriend end?
Well, the I just burn out basically, as far as you know my part goes, because we got another booking agent, and we were playing well, Knoxville, Oak Ridge. We were playing in Christiansburg, Virginia, Greenville, North Carolina, Paducah, Kentucky, Hopkinsville, Kentucky, and it just kept getting farther and farther out. You know, the dates. And then I can't remember I think Walter wanted to stop and stay more local, and Ty. I can't remember what Ty lived. Ty moved to Florida, and we got some other guys and done some shows, and ended up playing out in Amarillo, Texas, and there were some places that they wanted to book us in Colorado and Michigan and stuff, and I'm like, you know what? You know, when it's okay if you're just playing in the band and just have to worry about playing.
Right.
But see, I was driving the truck, pulling the trailer that had the equipment in it, and you know, having to worry about that. Of course, you know, when you're the drivers, the road crew, and the band and stuff, and
A lot of work.
yeah, and I just got tired,
Yeah. Okay.
and I just finally just told him I wanted to hang it up,
Yeah.
and I did, and for a few years. I got in with playing with a house band at Patty's
Okay.
just for
Just something to do.
you know, to be doing it.
Yeah.
You know, of course, you know, there I was back again playing country and rock, and things went on. I got married and so on and such, you know, and stuff, and the musicals come back again and for Hermit Springs, and they got a hold of Brad, and Brad, you know, was kind of heading it up, and he was getting the band, a band together, and so he called me in, and then I got my brother-in-law involved, and then Jimmy
Right.
Wicks got involved,
Right.
and so we were playing the musicals at Hermit Springs. And so we decided it'd be fun, you know, if we just formed a band and played songs that we liked.
Yeah.
And so, first started out as Big Bang Pal,
Okay.
you know, kind of like an old Batman episode, you know,
Yeah.
you know, where they were throwing punches and stuff.
Right.
And then ended up being called Supernova King,
Right. Right.
and so that stuck,
Yeah.
and that stayed, you know, quite a while. We, you know, we would travel around, play some places and stuff, and we got to doing the fundraiser for the Hermit Springs Fire Department
Yep.
every 4th of July or around the 4th, and we would play in the park in Hermit Springs, and that was always a big draw.
Yeah.
Hermit Springs would be full of people,
Right. Right. Yeah. I
And,
went over a couple times. And yeah.
and that went well, and then things happened, you know, and Michael wanted to phase out, and then we got my stepson at the time, Kyle Ray,
That's right. I'd forgot about that. Yeah.
started playing bass with us, and Of course, Kyle ended up marrying one of Brad's girls, Tia.
That's right. I even didn't put. I forgot. I mean, I knew that, but I had forgot. Yeah.
And so that stood for a while, and it just got to, there's places so far, you have to drive so far to play. Plus, I'm no spring chicken anymore either.
Right.
And my knees, my elbows, my wrist.
Yeah.
Everything
hurts.
It hurts.
Yeah.
And it just.
It takes a day or two to get over.
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine playing every day, every night, anymore.
Well, I mean, yeah, sure. These other guys, yeah, you've got personal trainers, and you don't have to worry about, a 40-hour-a-week job or nothing. You know, you can take care of yourself like you need to for, the music part of it.
Right.
And it just got to where I just got tired of messing with it, you know, and we just kind of just laid out
Just
of it.
fizzled out a little bit.
Yeah.
We done the same thing, and like you said, it's a whole different ball game. A lot of people knows that, but they don't know the work that goes behind that 3 or 4 hours that you're playing on stage.
Yeah.
When they get home and get in bed, you're still tearing stuff down. You're loading it in a truck or a van, and you're taking it home. Maybe unloading it or that night or the next morning, and then setting it back up if you want to start practicing again. And it's just it's a lot of work, a lot of work.
Yeah, it's quite a bit to it. And like I said, 25 being 25 years old, sure, you've got the stamina to just do it, go.
Yeah.
But things change. Life happens.
Yeah.
And you get older and stuff, and you lose part of that stamina and elasticity, and you can't bounce back as good as you did before.
Yeah.
I mean, I still listen to music and and stuff, but I on another level too. I started going back to church. Was baptized, and so I listen to a lot of gospel and stuff now too. Of course, Stryper was always there too.
Yeah.
More traditional, gospel
Right.
stuff.
I think when you get older, your priorities change.
Yeah.
I got back into church myself for several years, and fortunately, I'm not in it as much as I should be. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I knew you was very active in your church. I know y'all do a lot of things.
We do live stream and stuff too, so I help do that.
Yeah.
And such, and so it just.
Faith is a beautiful thing, and like I said, I'm still very faithful. I'm still very believing, and I just don't go to church like I should, But going back, like you said, just a second ago, still listening to music. That's one of the reasons I'm doing this.
Yeah.
Just because I still love the drums. I still love rock music. I still love every bit of it. I just don't want to do it no more.
Yeah.
As far as, playing in a band and having to get 4 or 5 people on the same page and we do this, we can do that. That don't interest me anymore. And so I was like, I think I'm going to start this, because I started thinking, I was like, I can call you. I can call all of us I just like talking about it, sitting around and talking music. So, so this is a good episode. I'm sitting here looking at my watch like I got somewhere to go. I don't, but yeah, let's go ahead and we'll try to close out. But Chuck brought up a good question. I was talking to Chuck last night. So Chuck goes, you need to ask him, what if you was on, and I thought it was a good idea. And I don't know if I can answer this question. I probably know 2 or 3, but if you had 5 records, and that's it, that you could listen to the rest of your life, what would they be?
Well, definitely one would be Journey, Captured.
Okay.
Their live album, double live album.
Yeah.
That's about 1978, 79 Journey. And Journey was on fire.
Yeah.
Greg Raleigh was in the band. It was Greg Raleigh, Steve Smith, Steve Perry, Ross Valerie, and Neil Sean.
Yeah.
And that band could do no wrong.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
I can listen to the albums over and over and over and over and over. And Journey was a big impact on my life. Steve Smith's one of my favorite drummers.
Yeah, unbelievable.
And just what they were turning out at that time was amazing. And a huge Journey fan also.
Yeah.
Dream Police. I mentioned Cheap Trick.
Yeah.
That album would be one. Probably Boston's first album. And I don't know. It's hard to pick. Kiss Destroyer, maybe.
Yeah.
I would say. I think I like Destroyer a little better than I do Love Gun.
Okay.
So I would say Destroyer.
Okay.
And that's how many? Is that
4.
A fifth album. I don't know.
Yeah. It's hard.
Yeah, it's ridiculous because, I mean, I talked about a lot about guy vocals, but there's a lot of girls out there that need talked about. Of course, Ann Wilson, Heart.
Yeah.
You know, fantastic band. Linda Ronstadt, even going back that far.
Yeah.
And dare I say, I'll put this out there.
Okay.
People will probably go, what? ABBA.
Yeah, the harmonies and
those girls were unbelievable.
Yeah.
Their harmonies, like you said, the music and stuff. You know, before the disco, before the dancing queen and stuff. You know, I loved ABBA. You know, and that's a guilty pleasure of mine.
Hey, I get it, yeah.
But then I go on with Pat Benatar, Patti Smythe from Scandal.
Yeah.
I saw her open up for Bryan Adams, and in '87.
Wow.
At MTSU. And after doing her songs, that she had a new album out, she whipped out and done Whole Lot of Love by Led Zeppelin.
Wow.
And handled it.
Unbelievable.
And,
well, you know, there was always a rumor. Well, I don't think it's not a rumor because I've heard them talk about it. You know that, Van Halen wanted her before Sammy. You know,
she's a great singer. She is, and she's. She's just a total package.
Yeah.
I love her. She's awesome, and she's a good showman. She gets out there and does her little dances and just sings her butt off.
Right.
And she was amazing. I only got to see her once, but it had an impact on me. I won't forget it.
Right. Oh, that's awesome.
But yeah, there's so many bands out there. It's hard to pick anything.
Yeah.
Just like that. The ones I told you are for sure's because I know I won't get tired of them.
Yeah.
Because I go back to them all the time.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely.
So.
So are you also an album person, far as the whole experience?
Yeah, as far as them albums I mentioned, yes.
Yeah.
I'll listen to the whole thing. You could throw in Bryan Adams' Reckless. That's a good album just to put on.
And let it go.
Play the whole thing. Well, even Cuts Like a Knife, for that matter.
Yeah.
I could listen to the whole thing. Because my first concert was Journey Frontiers.
Okay.
At Murfreesboro. And Bryan Adams had released Cuts Like a Knife, and he was the opening act.
Wow.
And
that's crazy.
I was blown away. And I've seen Bryan Adams 3 times. And he's fantastic.
Yeah. I've seen him once, and it wasn't in the heyday. I mean, well, I guess it sort of was, but it was like in the early 90s, you know, after Reckless and things like that. But yeah, he's amazing.
Yeah. Always had a great band.
A lot of bands that you don't think of. When you mentioned Bryan Adams, the first thing then I went to was Huey Lewis. Mm-hmm. I loved Huey Lewis. At the same time, I loved Huey Lewis. Yeah. And, of course, everybody in the God's Green Earth has sports,
Mm-hmm. That's a great album.
Well, Reggie, my brother, thank you so much.
I enjoyed it. It's been fun.
Yeah, I've really looked forward to this. I don't get to see as much as I would like to.
Like I said, life happens.
Yeah, and I don't talk to you as much as I'd like to, but it's always good catching up. So.
Oh, yeah.
All right, my brother. Thank you, man.
All right.
Appreciate it.
All right.
Peace.